what me and Champ had to say. Champ, just keep it real short and simple. Just what you have to say regarding the All Star.
Got to put the passion back in it. Got to put the passion back in it. If you don't have the passion in it, then it's not going to be successful. Like I said, PFP, you asked me to come on your show every single week, and we come on here and we give our jokes. I make, like I said, and we do everything we can in order to make sure these ladies and gentlemen who's in the audience who drive the subscriptions up in order to make sure they get a good show. I make jokes about myself. I make jokes about my eating habits. I make jokes about the orange juice I drink. I make jokes about the alcohol that I drink. So in order to put on a good show, and that's the thing, when you have passion about what you do, it's different than me. Them hearing me speak like this is different than hearing me speak in monologue like this. Nobody watches a podcast to listen to you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Facts.
Just like no one watches basketball in order for you to just go through the motions. We want to see the most competitive pickup game ever. And that's what we're not seeing. And like I said, there's nothing Adam Silver can do. You can put as much stipulations on there in order to do that as you can. And look, I'm going to just be real. And this is a hot take. And I want you to clip this. Y'all NBA players better watch out. Because the way them ratings go down, the way them ratings are going down at this point. Let me break something down to you. You keep doing that, and you can kiss them guaranteed contracts goodbye. Mm-hmm. So don't mess around with the mess around. You keep with this low effort, not playing defense, and this just doesn't count for the All-Star games. This counts for regular season game because the ratings were down even before we even got to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Keep messing around, and you're going to lose the very thing that Magic, Bird, Jordan, and a lot of guys before you built. Those guaranteed high dollar contracts. And you're going to start having incentive-laced contracts just like the NFL does. And guess what? I think that those incentive contracts will do y'all some good because guess what? Y'all have lost y'all passion. Y'all have lost a lot of things that were the cornerstones of the NBA. And guess what? The biggest way to appreciate something is when it gets taken away from you.
Here's what I will say about the All-Star game. I didn't have a problem with the format. First to score 40 wins because y'all know, shout out to the great Ice Cube. Remember how he does his big 3 tournaments? Because you would think, okay, with the new format, all right, guys are going to be more competitive. First to score 40. All right, cool. It's kind of like pickup game, kind of like pickup basketball in the park or on the street. But Champ, these players, it seems like they're not playing with the same type of passion or energy as players who've previously played. It's not there anymore. It's gone. And for LeBron, look, LeBron, if you had an injury with the ankle, you should have announced it to the NBA, and the NBA would have found somebody to replace you. They could have gotten Norman Powell. There were other guys who could have made this year's All-Star team. They are well deserving. And the fact that you put it out on the last minute, totally unprofessional on LeBron James' part. And for those who had a hard time hearing what I had to say regarding the ratings, Chap mentioned, viewers for last week's All-Star game was near all-time lows. Just 4.718 million basketball fans tuned into TNT, TBS, True TV for last Sunday night's game, according to Front Office Sports, Ryan Glass-Pico. It is a 13% decrease. A 13% decrease, which last year's viewers drew 5.398 million. And it only gets worse. It was the second least watched game in the event's history, according to Front Office Sports, barely beating out the 2023 game, which had about 4.6 million watching. Champ, BRF, is this another example on why so many other leagues, organizations have gotten so much better than the NBA? Because we talked about NBA or NFL. We talked about the Christmas games on Netflix. Look how many ratings they got. 24 million for the Chiefs Steelers game, 24 million for the Ravens Texans game. Hell, let's not forget Beyonce performing in the halftime show, 27 million, compared to the Christmas games that were on ABC and ESPN. And then we're almost at March. We all know there's a certain thing that transpires in college basketball, March Madness. Not only men's, but also women's.
Yes.
So you have to take that into consideration. And the only way for the NBA, they're going to make some noise around April, of course, because playoffs, and before the playoffs, the tournament, in order for the 7th and the 8th seeds to get in. But NBA, you're going to have to do a better job moving forward, promoting the product. But these players, if you continuously take the product for granted, then guess what? Fans are going to be turned off, and they're going to spend their hard-earned money watching something else. And you mentioned, Champ, the WNBA. Of course, there's Caitlin Clark. There's the reigning league MVP, A'ja Wilson. There's going to be a lot of excellent women basketball players, and they're going to be tuned in. So with the NBA, you better get it together. Adam Silver, I don't know what. I mean, I don't think you can convince players, Champ, convince somebody to do their job if money and the fans is not going to be enough for you to do your job. Hey, I don't know what else to say. But BRF, you mentioned going back to the old format, the East and All-Star. I don't know. I mean, could that work? Maybe. I didn't have a problem with Team LeBron, Team Curry. I thought at first it was kind of cool, but my thing is I can't teach you effort. I can't teach you whether you care or you don't. That's something either you have or you don't. Either you really want to play or not. And it's just really unfortunate, and it just left a sour taste. And now it's even getting so bad to a point. Even some people are like, "Can we please have football back again?" And I didn't even mention that the USFL, the XFL, that's probably coming back in what, March or April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
And let's not forget, and let's not forget, guys. Oh, I got more. We got the scouting combine. We can't disregard that. We got pro days. And of course, we got free agency with the NFL. That's going to be big. And unfortunately for basketball, that's going to be overshadowed. Don't be surprised on the Sports PSP podcast. I call Champ and BRF and say, yo, we got breaking news on this. Hey, if y'all have time, do you want to do a pod on this? Because we're going to do that. Because we did that last year, especially with the Stephon Diggs trade. Remember that, Champ?
Yes, we did. And let's not forget the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, and let's not forget that too. In Nevada. But hold on, Chip. The only sour note though. I know he gets a lot of flag. Don't bring Hogan to WrestleMania. Just don't bring Hogan. Don't bring Hogan. Bring in Steve Austin. He lives in Nevada. Can you please bring back Stone Cold? Can you do that for us, WWE? It would be exciting once we hear that glass break.
Well, shoot. When the Undertaker came back that same Raw on Netflix, he shared the same political viewpoints as Hulk Hogan. He didn't get booed. He didn't get booed.
No, talk about Taker. Even though he has the same political viewpoints, Taker's a man of integrity. Hogan, on the other hand, is
a natural. He's a natural jest. I can't think of a kind word to say on this program, and this is a family show, but he is a natural can we say he's just a natural dummy? In the great words of Fred Sanford, he's a dummy. And
I'll say it.
If he had to get 25 to life just for being a dummy, he'd probably be doing 10 years. He'd probably be doing 50 years consecutively right now.
I'll say it, douchebag.
I don't blame you. But and at the same time, look, man, Taker and Hogan, they have their political viewpoints. Last time I checked, Hogan, one thing that will never be accused of Taker will never be accused of being a fraud and a liar.
Nope. Exactly.
I mean, look, I've told you several times, Chip. You have to be a certain individual to tick off Mick Foley. Go, for those who may not know, I know I'm digressing. Go watch Off the Record 2002, Mick Foley's response to Hulk Hogan when Hulk Hogan talked about his training habits compared to Mick Foley's. Go look at that. Also, go look at what Bret Hart has said in the past about Hulk Hogan. Jesse the Van Ventura, Undertaker, other wrestlers have called out Hulk Hogan. So for those to say, well, we're getting on Hulk Hogan because of his support for Donald Trump, no, that's his choice. That's his prerogative. We're just knocking Hulk Hogan for all of his lies and all of his other things in his past.
What's so funny about that? People are going to say that people are going, hell, one guy that rolled with us, we know who he voted for. That's the funniest part about it. Hell, one guy who's on our show, The Great Flash, we know who he voted for. And guess what? We roll right with him every day. So stop with this whole narrative about political views. It's a stupid narrative. We know it, and we know it's a farce.
It's how decent of a human being you are at the end of the day, regardless of who you vote for. If you can vote for someone that a lot of people don't agree with, but you can still at the end of the day be a decent human being and have understandings about certain things and can meet in the middle with people about certain situations and not be a complete douchebag about everything like Hulk Hogan, then absolutely you're still going to get respected. That was what I was saying. While Undertaker didn't get booed at that Raw on Netflix, even though Hulk Hogan got booed out of the building, we know who the Undertaker is as a person. We know who he stands for. We know how good of a person he still is, regardless of who he voted for. Undertaker's just a douche. I mean, Hulk Hogan's just a douchebag. Point blank. Period.
And look, I saw the latest interview with him on the Pat McAfee show. He did himself no favors.
Made him look worse. You wouldn't think he could make himself look even worse, but he did.
He just did. So I'm like, if you're Hogan, and plus, man, the minute you hear his entrance music, he's gonna get booed. He's gonna get booed, which is why I bring back Stone Cold Steve Austin. I would love to see Steve at WrestleMania. One, because again, I think it would be so much better for the WWE to have a guy like Steve back at WrestleMania, someone who I consider the GOAT. And again, popular in terms of the t-shirts, in terms of his connection with the audience. If there is a pop, if there is something that just galvanizes the fans, energizes the fans, go listen to Stone Cold Steve Austin's Glass Break. Because I guarantee you, especially in Nevada, where he currently lives, I think it's going to be big. But back to the NBA, champ, I think players have to play with passion, but at the same time, you can't teach passion. Either you have it or you don't. And I'm not saying that a lot of these players, they don't care about basketball, but when it comes to like all-star games, when it comes to events like this, they do kind of take it for granted. And it's really unfortunate because, again, we want to see the best go up against the best. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a regular season or a postseason game. Having said all of that, we have to ask for effort.
It's sad at a certain point. Because like I said, hockey is one of the more violent sports in the world. And they're making like a third of what these guys make, a third of it. And they just go, and that Four Nations game, I just wish that TV would put hockey on there more often. Because that Four Nations game just personifies how dedicated those players are, man. You know, plus I'm if you know me, I'm a hardcore Los Angeles Kings fan, but yeah, those Four Nations just personified what it means. That's what an all-star game is supposed to be. They just went all in and they gave the fans a show that we'll never forget. Although I hate that America lost, that was a show that I'll never forget. And we was cheering like it was the Olympics. If an alien would have came down from the sky, he wouldn't have been able to tell. They wouldn't have been able to tell if this was the Olympics or was this a regular turn. They wouldn't have been able to tell. They wouldn't have been able to tell. That's how competitive that Four Nations game was. And that's what PK Soudan, the great PK Soudan, was saying, man. You got to have that passion back in the game, man. Otherwise, it's going to falter. You can't teach passion, man. You can't teach it. You can't teach it at all. And that's the problem with these players. And like I said, next year, when SGA signs his next contract, he's going to be making upwards of $80 million a year. $80 million a year. Then if they bring that one-on-one tournament back, 1v1, it's gonna be $1 million purse for that. How much money do you have to throw around in order for it to motivate you? Can 300 million motivate you? 80 million a year, and that's not even including your endorsements. That's not even including the extra money that you will get for being an all-star, all NBA, MVP, making the final. That's not even including that money. So, hey, if you're not motivated by the money that you already have, how do I know giving you more money is going to make you put forth the effort that needs to be? Because like I said, the NBA right now, with the lack of effort, the losing of star players, the ratings being down, and the all-star game being a joke of a game at this point, you're on the verge of taking a trip back to the 70s. You're on the verge of taking a trip back to the 70s. And if you don't know, if you're not a basketball or a sports historian, the 70s were when basketball was at an all-time low. The NBA was on the verge of going under. Now, granted, NBA will always have a cult following, will have a big following, that is, because of its connection to hip-hop and stuff like that. But, hey, I'm just going to be real. You're on the verge of hitting that bottom. And like I said, the incoming stars don't have the same power as the outgoing star. That's the biggest difference between every sport in the NBA. The incoming stars have just as much star power as the outgoing stars. And like I said, look at their counterparts in the WNBA. Everybody is talking about, although she's still in college, they already comparing Juju Watkins to Caitlin Clark. Already conversations. You don't hear that conversation about Cooper Flag?
You know,
who he's compared to? No, you don't hear. Granted, I think he's going to be a hell of a player, but you don't hear those type of conversations about Cooper Flag and who's playing in the NBA right now.
You
haven't heard those conversations in a long time.
Could it be, Champ, because with the WNBA compared to the NBA, the WNBA players don't make as much money compared to the NBA? Heck, I mean, back then until now, remember, they had to travel overseas just in order to make extra money because they weren't making as much money in the WNBA. And now with the WNBA, you're seeing players, they care a lot more. They give more effort than the NBA players. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, but the thing is, there was a time where the NBA players, look at Shaq, Kobe, and all of those guys, they was making tons of money. The thing is effort. Kobe Bryant was at one time one of the highest paid players in the NBA, and his play was intense every single night. You couldn't stop it.
Not to mention, he knew the responsibility because, again, not too many people had an opportunity to see him play every single night.
And you got to think about this. And I'm going to say this in a non-offensive way. The NBA, unlike other leagues, are taking it out of the hands of the everyday man. What do you mean by that, champ? I'll tell you what I mean. I'm able to go to an NFL game for at least $250. And if I go to my home state for the Atlanta Falcons, I get in the building for about $100-something, and I'm still able to eat good because the concession stands up there are flat out amazing when you think about Mercedes-Benz Stadium up in Atlanta. When I go to that same game in the NBA, I got to pay $500. Then I know you taxing when I go to that concession stand. You're taxing for the drinks. You're taxing for the hot dogs. You're taxing for the popcorn. And guess what? I'm doing all of this just to see lackluster effort. I'm already in most of these NBA teams are in big cities. Hell, I might as well just go to the club, watch the game on television. You know, at least I get my money's worth. And the thing is, you want to feel like when you leave, no matter what you get in life, whether that be a video game, whether it be a telephone, whether that be a pair of shoes, everybody wants to feel like, man, that was worth it. Because the thing is, some guys, look, like I said, the everyday man, like myself included, a lot of us have to work 2 to 3 weeks in order to save up that money to go to these games. We ain't got $500, $600, maybe $1,500 to throw away. And that's just on the mid level. On the bottom level, you got to save up for damn near half a year in order to get courtside seats, in order to see LeBron, in order to see Trae Young, those guys on courtside. Because now they're making it more like a club experience more than an NBA experience. So you want to feel like you got your money's worth. You want to feel like these millionaire guys are not just going out there, just going through the motion. And the thing is, as much as a lot of modern day NBA players complain about, and a lot of modern day fans complain about a lot of us old heads saying that the modern day NBA is soft, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? You're proving them right every single day. You're proving them right. Just like somebody telling me, hey, you eat too much. I'm proving them right every day. What are you talking about? If I go out here and eat 3 cheeseburgers after you told me to stop eating, then guess what? I just proved you right, didn't I? So, yes, if you want criticism to stop in the NBA, these old heads need to stop hating. Okay, play harder. Play defense. Guess what? Even though back in the day, you had a lot of guys who wasn't necessarily super defensive stopper, the game was played on both ends on the field. It was played on both ends of the floor. And I think we're losing a lot of fundamentals of the game. I think that a lot of high pricing, a little bit of everything is affecting the game that we love, man. And guess what? With the NFL and all of these other leagues having good things going on, the only entity that can survive, the NBA, unfortunately, you're not as big as the NFL. The NFL got rid of the Pro Bowl and they survived. You're not the NFL. You're not the NFL. You're not going to survive that. So, look, effort, man. That's what it's going to take. Effort. And if you don't give that effort that it takes, guess what? Don't be surprised if you start losing them guaranteed contracts.
All right, fellas, let's move on.